So the author of Hebrews picks up on this aspect of Christ as well, noting his obedience to the will of the Father. This obedience, reflected in his humility, is then explained in its most magnificent sense by the words, to the point of death. Christ was born in order to die. He wasn't born that he might die. He wasn't born so that he was born in order to die. He came in order to die. He did not have to be born. He did not have to do the things that he did. But those things all were leading to the point that he would die. Remember now, Christ had no sin. If Christ was not intended to die for the sins of the world, he would never have died. But he was born to die. We want to remember that when we think of the little baby in the manger, that we think about it, when we read the gospel narrative and his parents placed him in this manger and all these different things, whatever, okay? We want to remember that happened because it was intended for that child to grow up and to die. That was the main purpose of his coming, was to die. So it says, where was I? To the point of death. Christ was born in order to die. The death would be an atoning death for the sin of the world. Okay, the word atoning is to cover, kafar in Hebrew, and what's the word? Hilasmos, I think, in Greek. Anyway, he came to atone for the sins of the world. To atone means to cover, so that when Christ looks at us, he does not see us, he sees the blood, the atonement of Christ covering us. Okay, and once again, that Paul uses that word, and in Romans it is called a propitiation. Okay, not only is there an atonement, a covering, but there is a restoration of happiness. Okay, the relationship between man and God is made propitious or happy once again. So it's a propitiation, a making of peace, I guess, between the two warring parties. And that is the word that is used in the Greek translation of the Old Testament for the mercy seat on the Ark of the Covenant. So you have the Ark, the box, and then you have the mercy seat which sits on top of it. And that is where the blood was sprinkled when on the Day of Atonement, when the high priest went in and sprinkled before the mercy seat 7 times. That is the same word that is used of Christ. He is the mercy seat. He is the covering. He is the point of propitiation between God and man. Everything that Christ does, everything that was done, anticipates what Christ did. Everything. It's all about him. Okay, so it was to the point of death. Christ was born in order to die. The death would be an atoning death for the sin of the world. This is seen, in Revelation 13, verse 8. However, his atoning death is not the focus here. Okay, in this particular part of the psalm. Before we go on, I'll read you 13:8. I could tell you what it says, but I'll read it exactingly for you. As it says in 13:8, all who dwell on the earth will worship him, whose names have not been written in the book of life of the Lamb slain from the foundation of the world. Okay, Revelation 13:8. From the foundation of the world, Christ was set to die. He was to become that lamb that would take care of our sin debt. Okay, his atoning death is not the focus here in the verse we're looking at right now. Rather, his obedience is what is highlighted, even to the point of death. So the death is a part of his obedience to the Father. Thus, it sets a pattern for those who would follow him. Let this mind be in you, for example, which was back in verse 5. But there is yet more to Paul's words. Christ was obedient to the point of death, but, as he highlights, even the death of the cross. The law